Okay, hi everyone. I'm David. So I used to be an engineer at Consensus, after which I left Consensus to start working on Bonadocs through like the Consensus Fellowship Program. So like post-leaving Consensus, I joined the Fellowship Program. You can hear me? Okay, yeah. Okay, so I currently work on Bonadocs. So Bonadocs is basically like a postman for smart contracts, basically. But in this talk today, I'll be talking about building applications, right? So basically in engineering teams, right, while building like the front end, you are mostly torn between either integrating directly, using like VM or ethers directly into your application, or you abstract it into an API, then have people integrate the API. So like similar to things you have like Alchemy or OpenSea API and all of that stuff. So I think the idea is you have to know the right time to use either approach, right? And that's basically what we'll talk about today. So it's like architectural decisions around app development in Web3. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, you have the front end, then you have the middle, and you have the smart contract. So basically, what is the integration layer, or what integration layer are you going to use between your front end app, your React app, your Next app, and your smart contracts? So usually, direct smart contract integration is what is very popular, and that's why we have ethers, VM, Web3.js. I think they're deprecated right now, but those are like the main forms of integration. And obviously, right now we've grown to have Privy, which now works with VM, but this time because Privy creates like an embedded wallet, so users can sign up with Google and all of that stuff. So in this explanation, or in this code snippet, what I tried to explain was how Privy and VM work together for direct integration. So here you have clients, like client.switching. So if you've used VM before, VM have like an initiator where you have like wallet clients to initiate like the setup with VM. So here you batch. So what this transaction does here is so you have gateway contracts. So the gateway contract in this instance is basically an off-ramp contract. So basically what you need is we need to be able to debit the user's account, fund our contract, then we send fiat to the user's bank account, right? That's just what this does. So you can see the first call, you have the token address, which is the stable coin, right? You have the approve, the amount the user is trying to off-ramp, then that is approved for the contract to spend, and an order is created successfully. So once the order is created, that's done, and the user is able to off-ramp. Because if you look at here we have the message hash. Okay, so I think I tried to abstract a few things. So inside the message hash, that's where user's bank account and all of those will be hashed and to be de-encrypted on the contractor, and they're able to off-ramp basically. Right. So that's how an off-ramp logic would work if you're trying to build a simple off-ramp for users to basically debit the user and give them fiat. Right. So this gives you like complete visibility into the contract. You're closer to the metal, you know what's happening, you're not abstracting anything for the front end. This is important, especially for like, certain form of integrations that you're trying to be sure, or the integrator is trying to be sure of what they're doing, right? But for the API wrapper, this is also very important because we're getting to a point in Web3 where it's beginning to get adopted by mainstream tech firms or like tech companies, and most of them are not necessarily like Web3 native engineers, right? So what the API wrapper does, it helps simplify the integration process, so we don't have to like spend so much time trying to onboard them. That there's something called VM and something called ethers and all that stuff, or how to do APIs and all of that. So they just like integrate the APIs, and all of the magic happens on the back end. So what this looks like in real life is you have an endpoint, right? For instance, there's this Paycrest endpoint. So Paycrest is actually a real company that does off-ramps and on-ramps and all of that stuff, right? So you have your API key, you have your order data that contains, or amount of USDT that are about to be off-ramped, network base, and all of that, with the user's bank identity, the account number, their institution, and the rest, and you just pass all of that information into this endpoint, this /sender/others, and what you get back is an object that have like the order ID and the receive address. So in this instance, since the user is not connecting their wallet or anything, since it's just using an API, you get back a receive address. So that receive address, the user gets to send funds into that receive address from like maybe their Binance or whatever, and they can then off ramp. Because in this instance, they're not using like a MetaMask or any of those DeFi wallets, right? So what this does is that it hides like the complexities that are necessary to implement stuff like this. Banks or new banks or whichever of all of them can. So for instance, certain new banks, what they do is they allow you to send in stable coins into like an address, just like I just showed you, and the user gets USD on their neobank and they can spend anywhere they are, right? So now I think about it, I was thinking from a developer perspective, but also the user perspective, right, where regular users and regular developers can basically integrate into Web3 and are able to perform certain transactions. So just touch a bit on hybrid decentralization. So as I mentioned, because we're making this switch into like this sort of like mainstream adoption for Web3, in as much as you're thinking about APIs and smart contracts, you should think about using things like smart wallet integrations, gasless transactions through like Privy, and think about like batch operations and all of these things that basically make the UX simpler, right? I think Safe is one of the earliest users of like batch operations, right? And I think they do a really good job with it because they used to use like CowSwap, right, as their native swapping protocol. I think they've changed now, but yeah, they used to use CowSwap at the time, and they used to have that batch operations. So I think here like a good comparison between the two. So developer speed is slower in initial setup if you're not a native sim, right? You need to like get conversant on what's going on. API wrapper is faster, full control, right? Because if you are doing directly, you know exactly what you're integrating. You can swap things out if necessary. So team expertise, direct interaction, the team has to understand what's going on. They have to be Web3 native in terms of engineering. They have to know, okay, I have to approve first, I have to approve the spender, I have to basically understand like the whole byte and everything that goes on with actual direct integration. But if they have like the right skills, then yeah, you can go ahead to still do the direct integration. Decentralization, truly decentralized. API wrappers, well, they're the backend, so not as decentralized. Yeah, there's gas fees and API fees and gas. Obviously, these can also be abstracted in certain ways. Like I mentioned, with direct interaction, if you use a dynamic or a preview, you can also still pay gas fees for your users using like paymasters. So when should you use DeFi interactions and when should API interactions? So if you're building like very sensitive stuff, if I'm integrating a certain protocol, right, and I'm doing something very sensitive, I don't want to use APIs because I'm necessarily trusting them to do something or to like do the right thing and ensure they're not getting hacked, right? But if I integrate the protocol directly, I know at least I've removed a layer of error, at least on my end. Obviously, the team has strong Web3 expertise, custom interactions. So this custom interaction, the idea is if what you're building is new, right, you also want to integrate directly because it's easier to actually do. Because when you have the API wrappers, that's important because these are mostly like common, what do I call them? Common interactions like transfer, swap, NFT minting. Those are easier to like, they're standard operations that can be done easily. But when you have to do something very complex, many times, people prefer to just integrate directly. So obviously there are things like long-term control, flexibility, and the rest. I think before to skip. Okay, yeah. So I think the best practices is, I'll share the slide later. just to save time for questions.
I've already shared the link in the live stream.
Oh, okay, that's good. But basically, right, those were like the two ways to integrate. But what I've noticed in the Web3 engineering space essentially is, when teams are building their own in-house apps, many times they just integrate directly. But when they want to expose like a form of, they want third parties to integrate them, they mostly advise to use APIs because it's easier for them to like control, to KYC. For instance, certain companies or certain products don't allow you to off ramp without KYC, and doing it on chain might be a little wonky or a little weird. So what they try to do many times is they have the contracts in their backend. So once you do the KYC, then you get access to APIs that can then off ramp or do whatever they need to do, right? So that's a situation where people use APIs a lot, right? So but basically most of them do it now, like Alchemy, like papers I just showed you, several of these protocols. Because what I do right now is around like smart contract integration. So I'm seeing a lot of like teams pushing for APIs and SDKs also. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. So with SDKs, it's a little different. So what you do is you basically have the smart contract, then you write an SDK that performs action on that smart contract, right? So when people on the front end want to integrate with you, they use the SDK, then they pass in maybe the signer, and it does the same thing technically, but just using an SDK, just like simplified integration. So yes, I think we've been able to cover these two use cases and when to use it in your app. Thanks. Yeah, questions?
Questions, yeah. So I was just thinking, like, this your answer might be Bonadox potentially, but I'm just saying, is there a tool that where you can just give it a smart contract interface and then it just generates an API wrapper or an SDK wrapper around that smart contract interface for you, and you just sort of use a wizard and say, I want these languages or I want these properties, etc. Is there something similar to that exists? I built that. Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Right,
Unfortunately, it's not Bonadox yet.
Yeah.
So Bonadox currently doesn't allow you to take a smart contract and convert to an SDK. What you allowed you to do right now is you import your smart contracts.
Yeah.
You can call the smart contract methods just the same way you do on the Block Explorer, right? And you can then write JavaScript using ether.vm and then share that playground to somebody else. So whoever wants to integrate it can just look at your code and all of that. But I think I'll be curious to know what that is that converts.
So I found it in 2021, but you can pull your smart contracts and then just upload the API and then just have the API based on your unique API, and it knows everything about what your function is. So just add a function and the API call, the parameters and things and all that.
So each API endpoint will be equivalent to each smart contract method.
So it's a generalized endpoint, and you have an ID for the smart contract which you uploaded, and then you pass in the function, the method name of your smart contract, and then the parameters that would match that, right? And then
Yeah.
again, it understands all that. So it's just one generalized endpoint, and then the way it's able to decipher, what you're doing is based on that contract that you upload your smart contract API, and you get it back, and now that the back end, it's got that all stored on RE and stuff like that, so it knows exactly how to basically orchestrate that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly that use case.
Awesome.
yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm more curious about which tool will be able to convert, the smart contracts to SDKs, but not just SDKs, but because
SDK is just a wraparound API,
yeah,
right? So it really depends. Okay, do you need an SDK? Most people, once they kind of get into the weeds, they just want to repart the SDK and just use the API directly, right?
yeah,
But having an SDK can just make it easier for people when they start. You put your npm or JavaScript or whatever, and you can just download it and run it, right? And sometimes for backend code, if it's doing, if you're really wrapping that API,
that works actually. Yeah. Any more questions?